Hey there, O-level biology students, and welcome. Have you ever wondered why you have your mother's eyes or your father's smile? Well, the answer is hiding in a secret code, a language that's written into every single cell in your body. And today, we're going to crack that code.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the blueprint of life itself, DNA. Then we'll see how that blueprint gets turned into, well, you. After that, we'll get the lingo down, and finally, we'll actually learn how to predict traits. It's going to be great.
All right, first things first. Let's explore the absolute fundamental molecule of life, DNA.
I want you to imagine you could shrink down, way down, and travel inside one of your own cells. If you head for the center, the nucleus, you'd find these incredible thread-like things called chromosomes. And they're basically the instruction manuals for everything about you, all tightly packed up. So what are these chromosomes made of? Well, they're made of a molecule so famous it pretty much needs no introduction, DNA. And it has this really cool shape, like a twisted ladder or a spiral staircase. We call that a double helix. And this molecule, this is where all the secrets are kept.
But how do you build something so complex? Well, it actually all comes down to one simple building block, a tiny little unit called a nucleotide. Everything that makes you who you are is written in a language that uses these nucleotides. And each one of these nucleotides has three parts. You've got a phosphate group and a deoxyribose sugar. Those two parts form the backbone, kind of like the sides of the ladder. But the really important part is the base, which can be one of four types, A, T, C, or G.
And this is where the magic really happens. The bases don't just pair up randomly. Nope, there's a super strict rule. A always, and I mean always, pairs with T. And C always pairs with G. This simple, elegant rule forms the rungs of our DNA ladder. And it's the absolute foundation of the entire genetic code.
So we've got this beautiful code. But a code isn't much good if you can't read it, right? So how does the cell translate this chemical language into, well, action, into the very stuff you're made of? Let's find out. Think of your DNA as a massive cookbook with thousands of recipes. You wouldn't try to cook the whole book at once. Instead, you'd look for one specific recipe. Well, that's what a gene is. It's a specific section of DNA that acts as a recipe for one specific protein. And in this recipe, the order of the ingredients, the bases, is absolutely everything. It's just like how the order of letters makes a word. Change one letter and you change the whole meaning. The sequence of bases tells the cell the exact sequence of amino acids to link together, and that sequence determines what the protein does. This whole process is so fundamental, it's actually called the Central Dogma of biology. It's a two-step dance. First, transcription. The DNA, our master blueprint, stays safe inside the nucleus. A messenger molecule called mRNA makes a copy of the gene it needs. Then comes step two, translation. That mRNA messenger travels out of the nucleus to a ribosome, the cell's protein factory, where the code is read and the protein gets built. Simple as that.
Okay, now that we've got the basics of how it works, we need to learn how to talk the talk. To really understand inheritance like a pro, there are a few key terms we absolutely have to know. So let's get our vocabulary straight.
First up, allele. If a gene is the instruction for a trait, like fur color, then alleles are the different versions or flavors of that instruction. So you might have an allele for orange fur and an allele for white fur. Same gene, different options.
Next is genotype. This is super simple. Your genotype is just the specific combination of alleles you actually have. It's the genetic code written in your DNA, like, say, T.
And what does that genotype produce? A phenotype. Your phenotype is the physical trait you can actually see with your own eyes, like orange fur. So the genotype is the code, and the phenotype is the result.
And we have two ways to describe a genotype. If you have two identical alleles for a gene, say two for orange fur, we call that homozygous. But if you have two different alleles, maybe one for orange and one for white, we call that heterozygous. Easy, right?
All right, theory's done. Now for the really cool part. We're going to take everything we've just learned and use it to actually predict what traits offspring might have. This is where genetics gets really fun.
So let's try to solve a classic genetics puzzle, the kind of thing you might see on an exam. Here's the situation. We know the allele for orange fur in tigers is dominant, and the one for white fur is recessive. So the big question is, can two orange tigers have a white cub? Now, here's the absolute key. That allele for white fur is recessive. Think of it like a quiet voice.
If a louder, dominant voice is around, you won't hear it. The only way you see a recessive trait is if an individual has 2 copies of that recessive allele, no dominant allele to overpower.
So let's say both our orange parents are heterozygous, meaning they each carry that hidden recessive allele. We can map out all the possible outcomes for their cub using this handy tool called a Punnett Square. We put one parent's alleles along the top, the others down the side, and look at that. There is a 1 in 4 chance of getting a TT genotype.
And what does that mean? Well, the answer to our puzzle is yes, absolutely. 2 orange tigers can have a white cub. There's a 25% chance or a 1 in 4 probability. This is a perfect example of how recessive traits can stay hidden for generations, just waiting for the right combination to appear. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? By understanding these simple, elegant rules, we can decode the patterns of life all around us. It's like having a secret key to understand the past and even predict the future of traits. Pretty powerful stuff. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If the entire complex instruction manual for a living thing can be written with an alphabet of just 4 letters, what other incredibly complex things in our universe might be governed by surprisingly simple codes?
I really hope this explainer helped you crack the genetic code. If you found this helpful and you want to dive even deeper into the incredible world of biology, make sure you subscribe to the Spotwork Learning channel and hit that like button. We have a lot more explainers on the way to help you ace your exams. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.